What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Ryan Thomas here of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And very interesting topic tonight. The headline is the craziest offseason ever. Why do I believe that this particular offseason so far, 2019, it's just got started. We're just getting started here. And this is the best, craziest offseason of my lifetime. Not to date myself, but April 30th, my 27th birthday. So for those of you that haven't wished me a happy birthday yet, it's because my birthday is April 30th. Wish me a happy birthday on that day, not today. April 30th, my birthday. 27 years old. So as I approach my 27th year on this earth, this great earth, thankful for every day that I'm living, breathing, hunting, fishing, and loving every day. I am more thankful for the people around me, and obviously thankful that this podcast has grown immensely over the last 3 years. And this is the fourth off season that I have covered as a host on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, and it's been an off season that's been the craziest ever, in my opinion. When in any other year, in any other off season, could we say to ourselves, arguably two of the best players at their position demanded a trade and got a raise for it in Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr.? I think a deal will be hashed out with Odell Beckham Jr. and the Cleveland Browns that will, probably be even longer than the one that he got from the Giants. But technically, the OBJ situation is a little bit different. The Giants extended OBJ and then sent him packing. First and foremost, before I get into why this is the craziest offseason ever for the laundry list of reasons that I have, OBJ getting this opportunity to basically point at AB and say, AB got what he wanted. I want what I want. I got my extension, but I want what I want. I want to be seen as the face of a franchise. And the New York Giants, they come out and say, Dave Gettleman, the GM of the Giants, the mentor to my GM, my team's GM, Brandon Beane, Dave Gettleman, former Panthers GM, assistant GM Brandon Beane now in Buffalo, obviously. Gettleman comes out to the media. He says, very specifically, we did not extend Odell Beckham to trade him. Have no fear. Dave Gettleman is here. We will take care of it. It'll be all right. OBJ is going to be a New York Giant for this foreseeable future at the very least. So the Giants media members, the Giants fans, they just pack up their bags and go home, saying to themselves, there's no story here. And yet, there was a story to be told, because Dave Gettleman knew that, we're going to trade this guy when he didn't even need to be traded. You have arguably two of the best players at the position get moved. You have arguably on the New York Giants two of the best players at their respective positions at running back and Saquon Barkley. Yes, I know he's a rookie, but did he have a damn well good rookie season? Yes, he did. He damn well did have a good rookie season. Did OBJ prove that he's the best wide receiver, arguably outside of Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, in the National Football League these last 5-6 years? 100%. 100%. And you take OBJ off of this Giants team, you remove him from the roster. You know Eli Manning he's like sand in the hourglass. That there's a few strands left, grains of sand left in that hourglass. Very little time left. We know that he's way past his prime. Frankly, he's probably one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the National Football League right now. Sorry, Eli, but that's just the reality of the situation. You take OBJ off that New York Giants team. You then make Saquon Barkley the lone weapon in that offense. What do you think defenses will do? They will stack the box, prevent Saquon Barkley from running all over them. The threat of OBJ helped Saquon Barkley. Now you take OBJ and put him on the Cleveland Browns with Baker Mayfield, with David Njoku, with Jarvis Landry, and yes, the threat of the running game with Nick Chubb, with Kareem Hunt, albeit for 8 games. 8 games of Kareem Hunt is just as good, if not better than half or more than half of the running backs of the National Football League. All personal character issues aside, Kareem Hunt is as legit as they come. We know that in terms of on the field prowess, Kareem Hunt is pretty damn good. The guy just made a few mistakes. I don't condone it, but the NFL chooses talent over character. And we've talked about that before. I've talked about that before. It is what it is. The Cleveland Browns gave an opportunity. Who am I to say that he doesn't deserve a second chance? I'm not going to say that. They felt like he deserved one, and he got one. End of story. But now with OBJ on this Cleveland Browns team, you have a true elite of the elite player as a fixture of this offense, which will catapult his supporting cast. Jarvis Landry is going to have a far better year. David Njoku might finally arrive as a first-round pick tight end from a few years back, might finally arrive as such. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Cleveland is loaded on paper, offensively and defensively. One facet of that defense that they don't have anymore is Greg Williams. He defected from the Browns to the Jets as their defensive coordinator with Adam Gase. But Myles Garrett is a true specimen. And I said it in a very short clip, a story on my Facebook page. The Cleveland Browns have all the makings to be the next great NFL dynasty. They have all the pieces right now on paper. Maybe not all the pieces, but a pretty damn good amount. They're as close to being one of the better teams on paper going into a season before a draft that I have ever seen. Keep in mind, yeah, they did send their first to the Giants. They did send a late third, mind you, to the Giants. And I loved Jabril Peppers coming out of the draft. I love Jabril Peppers now. But to think that that was the trade that got Cleveland, the great, the legend in the making, Odell Beckham Jr. Wow. I never thought I'd see the Giants move him within the next 5 years. Because we were told by Gettleman and by the Giants and by the contract that they gave him that OBJ would be there for the foreseeable future. $90 million, 5 years, I believe is what it was. Make him one of the highest paid receivers. But he kind of sees what Antonio Brown did and kind of wanted to make it his own. But I do not believe OBJ wanted to leave that team. And in hearing that he was traded, everything I read and everything I heard was that OBJ was devastated when he was traded. And rightfully so. That's where he made his mark, living in the big city. Now he's in Cleveland. Very different from New York City, very different from New Jersey or whatever. The Giants are always represented as the New York City team, but they don't even play in New York. They play in New Jersey, for Pete's sake. We know the only New York team, that's the Buffalo Bills. That's just fact. So now OBJ is in Cleveland. Now you have another level to the game added on for the Cleveland Browns. Now you have the AFC in the midst of a shift. Cleveland has accelerated themselves in that shift. They've went from being maybe a playoff outlier to a perennial AFC North division winner. I don't see how they don't win that division. You got Pittsburgh, you got Baltimore, you got Cincinnati. Cincinnati is in the midst of a rebuild. I think Cincinnati will be rebuilding probably for the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not feeling too confident about where they're at. They're so behind due to the fact that they kept Marvin Lewis for too long. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they lost Antonio Brown. Yeah, they lost Le'Veon Bell, but the Pittsburgh Steelers have drafted laughably well. Always. forever in their history, you look back, even in the years where they were so-so, they drafted pretty damn good. T.J. Watt, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner in one draft, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I am, but if I'm not mistaken, we'll just preface my statement by saying that. Pretty sure I'm spot on there. If I'm not, I apologize. But you get the point, even if I'm wrong. T.J. Watt, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, Terrell Edmonds. I mean, they've drafted some true studs on both sides of the football, and I'm not led to believe anything other than that. I think Pittsburgh is a legitimate franchise. They're one of the premier franchises in the National Football League. They've always been. They've won 6 Super Bowl titles over their franchise history. Yeah, that's pretty sickening that Tom Brady has as many Super Bowls as the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it is what it is. Can't rewrite history, unfortunately. I bet Buffalo Bills fans wish that they could rewrite history. Anyway, then you have the Baltimore Ravens, who just have always been one of those wallowing teams. They're either really good one year or they're down the next year. They're in a state of transition with Lamar Jackson. Yes, they got Mark Ingram. Yes, they got Earl Thomas. I do like some of the signings that they've had this offseason so far. But if you don't think Cleveland's going to win this division, you're out of your damn mind at this point with who they have, with talent, and everything. It will be unreal. And the only dynamic that is standing in Cleveland's way of becoming this perennial NFL powerhouse is the fact that you do have Baker Mayfield, you do have Odell Beckham Jr., you do have Jarvis Landry, you do have David Njoku, you do have Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. You got a lot of ego. You got a lot of star power on one team, and sometimes star power is over the top, all-time great, or star power is so tumultuous with true turmoil that the team can't even stand on their own feet. We've seen that before. And it's not good. Doesn't end well for anyone. And yeah, OBJ is an electric and eccentric personality. And yeah, Baker Mayfield is brash. And yeah, you have Jarvis Landry, who we know, his track record. The guy took Aaron Williams' head off practically for no reason whatsoever and ended Aaron Williams' career. Aaron Williams' career. That was not a good move on his part. He's a pretty dirty player. I think that's a safe assessment. But he's a good player. He does a lot of things right outside of that. So this is just something to keep our eye on. But I don't think Cleveland will have that problem. I think Cleveland is actually going to be very good. I think their time is now. I think they're ready to win, and it's evident by that move. What a true steal of a trade that was. At some point, when you're the Cleveland Browns, you're a buyer, and then you're a seller. And when you sell, you have to sell for that one more piece that you think can catapult you to the top. That's exactly what Cleveland did. They were buyers of draft picks, and then at one moment they became a seller of draft picks. And when they were a seller of a draft pick, it was to land, Odell Beckham Jr. So congratulations, Cleveland. You guys deserve to win just as much as Buffalo does, Minnesota, Detroit. Some of these small market cities, they deserve to root for a franchise that has the ability to get great players and win. The city of Cleveland deserves it. Buffalo deserves it. I can't think of two fan bases that deserve to see their team succeed more than Buffalo and Cleveland. I just can't. I'm sorry. Those two fan bases have been through proverbial hell for a fan base of a franchise, of any sports team, in all of sports. Look at their history. 4 straight Super Bowl losses. Cleveland lost their franchise to become the Baltimore Ravens, get their franchise back to no thanks of Art Modell, and they've been in the basement of the league ever since. So, outside of some Kelly Holcomb, but I'm happy for Cleveland. I have to tip my cap and say, yeah, to see a small market team like that do well is a feather in all of our small market fan base caps, if you will, if that makes sense. Shifting gears now, the next crazy move of this offseason that I am just shocked by is this whole Antonio Brown fiasco or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, Buffalo was going hard after AB. That was the first move that they wanted to really, go in with a bang this offseason. That was the guy that they really wanted. And I get it. Antonio Brown, one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best. I think he's the best. And Buffalo did have terms that they were set on, and Pittsburgh was okay with those terms, and they agreed in principle to a trade, and then the trade fell apart. And for whatever which reason you have as to why the trade fell apart, the most common answer that is given to us is that, yeah, Antonio Brown didn't want to play in Buffalo. And that is a perception that has become a reality, and it became a reality a long time ago. And it became a reality by a player that eventually played for the Buffalo Bills and didn't just play for the Buffalo Bills, might be one of the best Buffalo Bills players to ever live in Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly, drafted by the Buffalo Bills in 1983, 13th overall or 14th, 15th, one of those picks. He decides to play in another upstart league where the league, known at the time as the USFL, the United States Football League, they tell Jim, hey, Jim, you come over here, play in our league, we will let you take your own pick of where you want to play. You're not going to go into a draft and have to wait to be drafted. You're going to literally pick where you want to go. Do you want to go here? You want to go to Houston? You want to go here? And he goes to Houston. And he throws for 5,350 yards. Throws for almost 6,000 yards in a couple seasons playing in the USFL, 3 years in particular. Jim Kelly was willing to play. Think about this. Jim Kelly was willing to play in a league that was brand spanking new to avoid playing in Buffalo. The league folded, and due to the fact that the Buffalo Bills had his rights, they had to renegotiate a contract with Jim Kelly to bring him here. And that said contract that I'm referring to was the highest paid quarterback contract at the time given to a quarterback. $5 million was what Jim Kelly got. I believe it was $5 million 5 years. And it was a massive deal at the time. Massive deal. No quarterback made that much money per year, $1 million per year. I believe that is correct. I believe Jim Kelly was the first $1 million a year quarterback in the National Football League. At least close to it. So Jim Kelly comes here, gets paid to come here a lot, and embarks on this Hall of Fame journey where now you fast forward all the trials and tribulations that man has gone through. One of the toughest people that ever walked the face of the earth, in my opinion, to go through the stuff with his son and to go through the cancer that he has had, not once, not twice, 3 times over. And to still stand tall and to be his own guy and to be Jim Kelly, man, I don't think to say I respect that would be an understatement. That would sell it short. That's remarkable. It's undeniable inspiration that guy brings to the table. You can't get him to leave Buffalo now. I mean, this is his home. He hunts out here. He has, business ventures. The same thing that goes for Thurman Thomas, for Bruce Smith, for a lot of these players over the years that have come to Buffalo and have had major success, they don't want to leave. Because when you are successful here, when you do things the right way and have a great career here and you help the Bills win, there is no better place to play in the National Football League than Buffalo in that instance. No better place. And I'm not just saying it because I'm from here. I've done a lot of traveling over the years. I've done a lot of, sightseeing in terms of sports cities and stuff like that. And you just don't see the appreciation from a fan base to former players like you do in Buffalo. So for new players that say, well, I don't want to go to Buffalo, it's not that great. In the words spoken so poignantly and so honestly by current Buffalo Bills GM Brandon Beane, if you don't know about Buffalo, don't talk about Buffalo. Find out what it's actually like here before you throw shade at the city. And yes, I do take it personal because, we might not have the glitz and glam of an LA or a Miami or a Dallas. But if we did, we wouldn't be Buffalo. And if Miami didn't have South Beach, it wouldn't be South Beach, Florida, Miami. If Dallas didn't have the everything's big in Texas mentality, they wouldn't be Dallas. If LA didn't have the bright lights, camera, action mentality, it wouldn't be LA. If Buffalo was trying to be something that it is not, it would not be Buffalo. Buffalo is one of the few cities that has always remained the same. And that I see as a good thing. They're true to their identity. The people, the city, the region is true to its own identity. Yeah, we're a small town with a drinking problem, as they say. No, in all seriousness, we're a small town with the true deep love for everything red, white, and Buffalo Bills blue, and Buffalo Sabres blue and gold. It's always been that way. Heck, you could go down to Washington Street, downtown Buffalo, home of the Buffalo Bisons, and see a AAA baseball park packed full on a Friday night. Where do you get that? In a summer night, a AAA ballpark packed full house with fireworks and every which form of entertainment for kids and everybody. Not many cities have those things, and I think that there are a lot of things that Buffalo brings to the table that not a lot of cities have. One of them being food. And it sounds so just ridiculous, but I travel. So when I travel, I get hungry and I want to eat. And I try to go somewhere and get something to eat. They don't even know what beef on wick is. They don't have chicken finger subs. They don't have bison chip dip. They don't have these things in these other towns. Not even from Buffalo to Erie. You can go to Erie and try to ask them if they have beef. They don't even know what a beef on wick is. That's a 2-hour drive. But it is a completely different way of life. That's part of what makes this country so great. You could go from one place to the next and it could be the complete opposite of the other place. But Buffalo, I can say this, I would not want to be from any other place in my life. As I've gotten older, as I've lived in retrospect, growing up as a kid here, this is my home. When I leave, when I go on vacations, when I go on business trips or whatever, I want to come home because this is my home. And when you have these rumors and all these stories about whether Antonio Brown wanted to be here or not, I really don't give a damn. If Antonio Brown didn't want to be here, that's fine. I don't want players that don't want to be here. I want players that do want to be here. And that was a mentality that a lot of Bills fans shared When Jim Kelly was spurning Buffalo and saying, would you rather play in Houston or Buffalo? I'll stop there. Those were exact words of Jim Kelly. Would you rather play for Houston or would you rather play for Buffalo? You had a player drafted in the top, I believe the top 3 of a draft that decided that he did not want to come and that he would play in a CFL career. And the name is not coming to me. Tom Cousineau, it just came to me. Tom Cousineau decided that he didn't want to play in Buffalo. Drafted first overall by the drafted first overall in 1979 by the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo acquired that pick from the San Francisco 49ers, I believe, in a trade for O.J. Simpson, if I'm not mistaken. And Cousineau was the first pick. Buffalo picks Jerry Butler as well, 5th overall. Phil Simms was drafted by the Giants, 7th overall. Otis Anderson was drafted 8th by the St. Louis Cardinals. Kellen Winslow, Sr., the great Kellen Winslow, Sr., was drafted by the Chargers. Fred Smerlas was drafted 32nd overall. Mark Gastineau of the Jets. Jim Haslett, drafted by the Bills. But first overall, they take Tom Cousineau, a linebacker out of Ohio State University, 1979. He decides that he doesn't want to play here. He plays 3 seasons for the Montreal Alouettes. He was a Grey Cup MVP, a CFL All-Star, College Football Hall of Fame, and at the Ohio State Varsity O Hall of Fame. His rights get traded to the Cleveland Browns for the eventual picks that led them to take Jim Kelly. The first round pick that they acquired was to take Jim Kelly. Then he spurns the Buffalo Bills. So that's where this has really started. This dates back to the 1970s, 1979, 1983. Then you fast forward Willis McGahee, the ungrateful piece of garbage that Willis McGahee was, to spurn Buffalo after taking him in the first round, 23rd overall, 2003 NFL draft. He's on one knee, being that he blew out the other one. Buffalo takes him in the first round, much to everyone's shock and to Bills fans' just utter bewilderment. They take him in the first round. He's got Drew Rosenhaus sitting next to him. We'll get to him a little bit later. And Drew Rosenhaus says, you're going to Buffalo, and everyone's celebrating because he was drafted in the first round. He was going to get first-round contract money back then, which was more than it is now at that pick due to the CBA. And Willis McGahee wanted to leave as soon as he got here. In the words of Ross Tucker, good buddy of mine, Ross Tucker, former Buffalo Bill, former Washington Redskin, former Dallas Cowboy, who said himself that of all the places he played, he enjoyed playing in Buffalo the most because he'd actually see his teammates. In Dallas, the guys would go to practice and then they'd go to the strip club. That wasn't happening here. You would go to practice and then you'd go get a keg and have a house party. That's Buffalo. That's Buffalo. Whereas there's been so many players along the way that have done so much to trash this franchise, the face of it, and some of it rightfully so. I'd be the first to admit, Ralph Wilson, without him, none of this would be possible. But at the same time, without Ralph Wilson, none of it would be possible. But at the same time, he was a bit of a penny pincher. He didn't want to spend the money year in, year out. He wanted to be competitive. He wanted to turn a profit. And when those 4 years were offered to us, those magical 4 years, when those were over, by the time the third Super Bowl was done, Bill Polian was essentially, they mutually agreed to part ways, but Bill Polian was basically shown the door. Goes on to have a Hall of Fame GM career. Without Bill Polian, those teams probably don't come together the way that they do. Without Marv Levy, without Polian, that doesn't happen. So for everyone that's saying, well, Antonio Brown didn't want to play in Buffalo, this isn't new news. This isn't anything that we're shocked by. It is what it is. And we don't care. If Antonio Brown didn't want to come here, who gives a rat's? I don't care. I'm okay with it. I don't want guys that don't want to be here. I want guys that want to be here. If that guy is Cole Beasley, if that guy is John Brown, not Antonio Brown, so be it. So be it. At least I know that the players that are on this team now want to be here. They're not going to be a distraction for the guy that I think is the present and the future of the franchise in Josh Allen. And that's it. Antonio Brown, I wish him the best of luck. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's a terrible human being, but his actions this offseason were borderline personality disorder. The actions of Antonio Brown, you really look at it, I'm not saying this to be ignorant in any way, shape, or form. This guy changed his whole look drastically. This guy drove down roads at 130 miles an hour in 30-mile speed limit zones. This guy has acted like a maniac. And if the Oakland Raiders want that, if the Oakland Raiders want to pay that, God bless them. God bless John Gruden. God bless Mike Mayock. You guys go do your thing. We'll continue to do ours. The Bills took a swing at something, and they hit the ball foul. That's what happened. They hit the ball foul and got to keep swinging. The count continues. Brandon Beane steps up to the plate. He swings. He hits the ball foul. You get another pitch. That pitch was the rest of free agency. Mitch Morse, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Tyler Croft, Tyna Kessie. I'm going to mispronounce his name. And many more. So to say that no one wants to come to Buffalo, and then you sign a bunch of names that some of them chose Buffalo over major franchises that have had major success, like Dallas, like the Patriots in the case of Cole Beasley, and like every other franchise in the National Football League that needed a really great center like Mitch Morse. They did the best they could with what they had, and they made do, and I thought they did okay. I don't think it was this all-star free agency like most people. I felt like they could have made some different moves. I would have liked to have got a Golden Tate in here, to be honest. Would have liked to have got a Tyrell Williams in here, to be honest. But, they did okay. They didn't do bad. They did what they needed to do. The majority of the deals are pretty short-term in terms of structure, so they're not really tied to many of these guys outside of Mitch Morse. And Mitch Morse is a guy you want to be tied to because that guy is one of the best centers in the National Football League, bar none. You got to think, these are the same people that say all these things about the Buffalo Bills. These are the same people that said that they were dumb for drafting Josh Allen. And I've said this so many times, but I will never forget them. I will never forget those people that decided that they were idiots for drafting the wrong Josh, as they always said to me. I've said this so many times, but pardon my language here. Now, I won't even say it because it's inappropriate. But I was very deep into the draft this year. Last year, I was just so enamored with that draft, with the quarterbacks, with the running backs, everything. I was so dialed in to that draft because I knew that Buffalo was going to take their eventual franchise quarterback. They take him. It's Josh Allen. It's one of the two guys I wanted. I wanted Darnold or Allen. Didn't want the moxie of Mayfield. Didn't want the arrogance of Rosen. Wanted the true, serious franchise guys that would put franchise before themselves with Darnold and Allen. The Jets got Darnold, good on them. That's okay, whatever. But we got Allen, and I like Allen better. That's the guy that I really thought would fit well here in Buffalo. And he did, like a glove. So that's my take on this offseason. I think Antonio Brown will do well in Oakland, but I think in retrospect, he'll probably wish that he probably won't wish that he would have went somewhere else. But I think in retrospect, he'll be remembered for his years in Pittsburgh. Always. Just like OBJ will probably be remembered for those years with the Giants, and people will wonder what if. Nick Foles got the most deserved contract probably in the history of sports from the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it sucks because I'm not a Jacksonville Jaguars guy. I don't like Doug Marrone. I don't like Jalen Ramsey. I don't have many reasons to like the Jacksonville Jaguars as a Buffalo Bills fan. But I think that they're at a point where they're going to be a lot better with Nick Foles. He's a great quarterback, a great man, and he deserved to end his career with a starting quarterback job. Boy, did he ever deserve it. Boy, did he ever deserve that money. He deserved that money. He made a lot of nice paydays in Philly towards the end there, but man, does he really deserve this one. It just sucks for me that I'll have to root for him while he's wearing a Jacksonville Jaguars uniform. Jacksonville's always been that franchise to me. I could care less about Jacksonville. They're just not one of those teams that pop out at me. Frankly, people say, Buffalo, they should move to Toronto. Jacksonville should move to Toronto. You ever watch a Jacksonville Jaguars game? They can't even sell half of it out. Not even half. That playoff game, there were more Bills fans there than Jacksonville fans. I won't even get started. But I just did, so that's how I feel. But this has been one heck of an offseason. The Giants trade Odell Beckham so they can sign Golden Tate. What the hell is going on in the Big Apple? What's going on in Dallas? I haven't seen Dallas make a single move the entire offseason. Very strange. Outside of the return of Jason Witten, I haven't heard a peep out of Dallas. Only time will tell. But nonetheless, I'm Ryan Thomas. You just tuned in to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, the craziest offseason ever. OBJ goes to Cleveland. Antonio Brown goes to the Raiders. Foles goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's been nuts. Landon Collins goes from the Giants to the Redskins. So then the Giants say to themselves, we need to replace Landon Collins, so let's go trade OBJ for Jabril Peppers. What in the hell is going on? Oh my God. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm out. Peace.